Hey College and Career Success, welcome to week 12 of our semester. We are in chapter 10 called Understanding Financial Literacy. We are really close to finishing up the whole textbook because there's only 12 chapters. So we are getting there. I also just want to let you know, just looking ahead, that in week 13 is when I will start reopening week 1. And so you'll see week 13 will be week 1, week 14, week 2, week 15, week 3, and week 16, week 4. So that's for students who maybe missed work or you were a late registration, whatever the case is. Earlier in the semester, you will have those opportunities for the first 4 weeks to make up that work as we start entering into the teen weeks of our semester. So just be on the lookout. I'll have that in my announcements and I'll have that in the weekly assignment videos, but I just wanted to kind of put that in the back of your head now. All right, so let's go ahead and take a snapshot look at week 12. So this is a typical week. You have a chapter, in this case, chapter 10. So as always, I encourage you to look at the lecture video or spend some time with the slideshow or the text itself. You are going to complete your discussion post by Wednesday for attendance, responded to classmates by Sunday. Again, I want to emphasize that we are still having students posting significantly under the word count. And so if you're noticing missing points, that is more than likely a reason why, although I am also seeing every once in a while students who are just doing very generic responses to classmates that say I agree or good post. You know, all those things I talked about we don't want to do. We want to have more meaningful interactions. And so that's another reason you might be seeing some points off there. You'll have a chapter 10 assignment, know before you owe, and a chapter 10 quiz. So let's jump in and start taking a look at these assignments. Your chapter 10 discussion post, here's your prompt. Again, we're on financial literacy and money management, all that. How do you feel when you do not have enough money for something? Will you stop spending on wants while you build up your emergency fund? So I know sometimes finances can be kind of sensitive or private discussions, so you do not have to give out any details. You can just kind of talk very generally unless you feel comfortable being more specific. So just in general, do you feel like you don't have enough money for something? How does that feel sometimes? And that can be something small, I wanted to get an outfit or something, I don't know. Or it can be something large. You wanted to go on a vacation and you just don't have the money for that. So whatever kind of idea you want to have in mind, how do you feel when you don't have the money for that? And then are you willing to kind of give up some wants to prioritize needs or your emergency fund? So this is all about just discussing and thinking about how you approach money management when maybe money is tight, which when you're in college, it tends to be tight sometimes because you're paying for books and gas to get to campus and all of those other things. So make sure you post that by Wednesday for your weekly attendance and then respond to 2 classmates by Sunday. From there, you have your chapter 10 assignment. This is called Know Before You Owe. So you're going to open it up. It's going to be this PDF right here. And so this is going to ask you to basically be aware of your tuition. Now, I know some of you are CCP, so you're still going to fill this out as if you are paying tuition, because at some point you may be at an institution that you are paying tuition. So it's helpful to know this type of information. So what you're going to do is go to the Sarksy homepage. And so I'm just say, here I am at the homepage. I'm going to go down to the bottom and there's a link simply called Tuition and Fees. And so you're going to look through here, and these are the basic credit hours and the cost of each credit hour. Now underneath that is some more specific fees, but some of this is very specific to programs. You can see culinary, dental. We're not going to really add all of that in right now. We're just going to focus on this box up here, although obviously it's important to be aware of other fees that are going on, especially if you need to know for your particular program you're in. So you're going to go up here and see how many credits you're taking. You can use this semester as your example. So if you're only taking this class, you would look at the 3 credit hours and it's costing $628.80. Now, those of you with more credits, you would just try to find where you are. For the purpose of this assignment, in my example, I'm just going to land right at 6 credits. So $1,257.60. That's what I'm going to use. But you will use whatever equates to your particular tuition status. So I'm going to go back here and we're going to walk through an example of, and they have it up here for us, of a student who has extra aid, meaning they got extra grants or loans or whatever it might be. versus someone who actually has to owe, they didn't have enough to cover. So tuition and fees, again, I'm just going to use my number that I came up with, the 6 credit hours, and this is what the table said. That's going to be the same in both columns. Now, room and board. Okay, so obviously we do not have dorms on our campus, but if you wanted to add in, let's say you know that you're spending, $200 a month on gas, or you're spending $500 this semester on a new laptop. You can add that in here if you wish, so that you can kind of get a more realistic picture of what it's like for you to attend college. For my purpose, I'm just going to leave it as just the credit hours, and that's up to you. And I know this box is like really wonky here. That's up to you how you approach that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say student 1, example 1, they're going to get more money than they need. So I'm going to say they're going to get $2,500. And I'm going to say student 2, they're not going to get more than they need. They're going to get less. So I'm going to say they're getting 1,000. And you can come up with this. This is just an exercise. You do not have to use my numbers. So then I'm going to find the difference, and I'm going to get a negative number in this first column. So I'm going to take my top number minus my bottom number, and I'm going to get negative $1,242.40. Now here I can just subtract like normal, and my difference is right here. Okay, so this is what I would start with right here. But then you have questions at the bottom, and you can't type here, sorry. What you'll do is then you'll comment these questions, or you can write it on a Word doc and upload it, or those of you who can manipulate the PDF and type or write on there, you are welcome to. But don't forget to answer these questions down here. It says question 1, what should student with excess aid do with their refund check? List 2 ways to use the money wisely. So right here, this is the refund. A negative number means they're getting that money back. They're getting a return on their scholarships or grants, whatever it might be. So come up with 2 ways they should use that wisely. Maybe they should put it back on their loan so that they have less to pay off. Maybe they should use it to buy school supplies, to whatever you think is a good use of that money. Then question 2 says, what should student who owes to cover the difference? List 4 ways to pay their balance and rank them from most desirable to least desirable. So in this case, like, it's not a huge balance. There's definitely larger balances that it could be. So let's say that your balance was like $2,000. What are 4 ways they could pay that balance off? So think about, maybe should they apply for different grants, different scholarships? Should they get a part-time job? Should they get a private loan? Should they ask a family member? Like, whatever you can come up with to brainstorm what they could do in that situation to pay off what they owe. When you're done, do not forget to hit save it with your changes. So you upload this into here along with the answer to those 2 questions. So if you get your grade back and it's only like 5 out of 10 and you're not sure why, more than likely it's because you didn't answer these questions down here. So make sure you fill out the box and answer the questions. Again, you can answer these if you're able to edit the PDF and write them on there. You can put it on a Word doc and upload it, or you can write it in the comment area right in the Dropbox. All right, and then the other thing you're doing for this week is your Chapter 10 quiz. So when you pull that up, here are your questions. If you realize that your expenses were greater than your income, what could you do to balance your budget? So basically just thinking about how can you be more financially sound with your expenses versus your income? What type of things would you do? Are you going to do like a budget analysis? Are you going to cut back on certain things? You're going to take out whatever it might be. Question 2, deciding on which bank or credit union to use and selecting that account you want to establish is really important. What do you think you should consider when making these decisions? And how would you evaluate which option is best for you? So basically, you're kind of looking at bank versus credit union. How would you go about deciding which is best for you? What do they offer? What are the pros and cons of each? How would you go about making that decision, and which one would be right for you? Question 3, if Amari has been asked to lead a discussion about financial literacy, specifically the use of credit cards, what type of information should she include in her talk? So come up with a few points that she should definitely include when she is discussing the best use of credit cards. Question 4, Danny was just hired in the college bookstore. It's her first job and she has extra money. She also wants to buy a new laptop. Use a financial planning process to help Danny create a plan for the laptop. Remember to include all 5 steps. So remember that sometimes we have to go back into our text to look at certain information. And so they do give us a planning process here where they go through here it is, these 5 steps. So develop goals, identify alternatives, financial plan, implement, monitor. That's what this question is referring to. So make sure that you go through those 5 steps to help Danny reach this goal of buying a new laptop. And then finally, compare and contrast grants, loans, and work study. How are they similar? How are they different? And then which ones do you think are best to attend and fund college, and why? So again, I want to just make sure that you all remember that you are answering these in 2 to 5 complete sentences, and you want to make sure you address all parts of the questions. I know some of the questions are lengthier, they have multiple components, but I do have students who don't address everything, and so they do lose some points for that. All right, so real quick recap for this week. Make sure you post in the chapter 10 discussion forum about what to do when you don't have enough money or you're feeling that way by Wednesday. Respond to 2 classmates by Sunday, and then get your chapter 10 assignment and your chapter 10 quiz by Sunday as well. Have a great week.